Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And on this MLK Day, we welcome you into PHLY Phillies podcast. We've got Tyler Zulli, Jamie Lynch, Renee Washington. Happy heavenly birthday to Dr. King. And also with that, our countdown is down to 73 days until opening day and just 27 days until pitchers and catchers report. Nice to have you guys here. Cleveland, John, we're thrilled that you got to actually catch a live show today. Happy Monday. Chris Slemmer, happy Monday. It's also game day for the Eagles. The Sixers are playing right now. Lots to talk about today and lots to get through. But first things first, Jamie, with Martin Luther King Day also starts the Phillies winter tour. So for the Phillies, Rob Thomson and several different players across the team are going to be giving back starting today with the day of service. It actually began this morning at the Give Back at Strawberry Mansion Learning Center at 10:30 this morning. And then they're going to have a clinic for RBI baseball players, RBI, which stands for Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities. So they'll have that clinic later this it's actually started because it's 3 o'clock. So it's great to
indoors.
See. Yeah, I hope so. It's disgusting outside. But that is supposed to be at the visiting batting tunnels and at Citizens Bank Park. So
okay. Cool.
Not okay.
That's cool.
But
for the
it's
kids.
great to see that the Phillies are doing their part, giving back on the day of service. There's different players, Brandon Marsh, Orion Kirkering, Aaron Nola that are involved. Of course, Rob Thomson. But Dr. King Day, do you have a favorite quote?
I mean, the most famous one, right? I mean, I have a dream quote.
Of course.
Is one of the most famous speeches in the history of the world. Hard not to just go with the chalk favorite right there. But yeah, we got to explain, not had to, but my wife is a teacher in the school district, and she was off from school today, and my oldest, who's almost 5, was asking her, like, why are you off? So we got to explain to her, Dr. Martin Luther King and like why today is what it is and a national holiday. So that was fun. It's good to teach that. At an early age, and now she gets to know what Martin Luther King is, and she'll learn more and more about him throughout her life. And it's a beautiful day in this country, and one that should never ever be forgotten.
Yeah, I love that, and it's great because my nephew has already read some books on Dr. King. My niece is now starting to learn, and I was tweeting this out earlier. Like, I now understand and appreciate Dr. King and so many other civil rights leaders and different people that have come along, family or even just, people like Dr. King that have changed the world for the better. So
long ago, but like it's not that long ago, but right. It feels like so long
95 years ago he was born.
Yeah.
And in 95 years, you see all that's changed.
He still could technically and maybe should be alive.
And should be alive,
yeah.
Exactly. And
pretty
also because of this being the week that we're celebrating Dr. King's legacy, it also was the Dream Series for Major League Baseball, which I love the concept behind the Dream Series. There's over 80 predominantly Black elite high school athletes invited to the 2024 Dream Series that happened this past weekend. It's a youth development event that the league put together to allow USA players to get training and clinics and opportunities to work with former Major League Baseball players and managers. And it actually began back in 2017, and it's been growing that now we have alumni of the Dream Series that are getting opportunities in the league. And it's just so many ways that we're seeing the growth of the game happening. And this is Dr. King's dream. I love the name Dream Series, but Dr. King's dream is just coming to life in so many ways and still has a lot of work to be done, though, guys. I will always say that. So, Kim, welcome. Thank you. I'm feeling way better today. I actually have a voice and can sit up and speak. Yo, darling Solaris, hello. Yeah, we've seen some moves happening. We'll talk about them. We haven't seen a lot going on, though. Spiral Out. Will, what's up, guys? Happy Monday. And then the last thing I want to share on Dr. King, specifically with the Dream Series, is I heard a really great story. Carson Ray, a 16-year-old right-hander out of Atlanta, whose grandfather was actually the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference that Dr. King used to be president for. And Carson Ray is a part of the Dream Series this year. And so there was a whole feature story on him. There's just great stories. I encourage you guys to take time to read through some of those as you have an opportunity, especially today of all days on Dr. King's Day. So that being said, Jamie, there have been things going on around baseball, especially looking at the international prospects. Of course, we know today that opened up for the fact that the teams around the league are able to agree to terms with international prospects. The first that we saw for the Phillies, 17-year-old Dominican outfielder who we actually had talked about on the show, Jalvin Arias.
Yeah, and if you know me, you know I love butchering pronunciation. So there's a good chance I'm probably going to go 0 for 6 in pronouncing the 6 kids that they signed. But yes, it is the international signing period, and Jalvin or Yalvin, I don't know.
I'm gonna go. Actually, Yalvin's not bad. I'm gonna go Jalvin since he's Dominican.
Feels like a Yalvin, but you're the Spanish minor. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, 1.4 deal for 17-year-old number 19 international
He has
prospect.
got a puppy face.
I know.
He looks like a little boy. But yes, the Phillies have made 6 signings. Arias is the biggest one, obviously. And then you have a couple catchers. They got a guy named Cesar Mojica from Venezuela.
Nice.
Yeah, not
Mojica,
bad. Yeah.
okay.
Julio Polanco Jr. sounds like a ball player.
For sure.
Another kid from the Dominican. Another catcher from Venezuela who was flagged as a potential breakout prospect, a 16-year-old kid named Anderson Nava. And then you get Winifrey Castillo, an outfielder again from the Dominican. And then Yadimir Fuentes, a catcher from Cuba. The thing that jumps off the page at you is 3 of the 6 signings are catchers.
Yes.
And, me, Tyler, and Vince were kind of talking about it before we went on the show. It's like they do put a lot of emphasis on catching. One, because it's really, really hard to find these kids. And 2, you have a JT next in line job opportunity opening probably in the next, 3 or 4 years, maybe, hopefully longer than that, but I doubt it. So you really want to find that next in plan replacement. Yeah. And I think this is the second year in a row they've attacked catcher pretty fervishly here in the international signing period. So it's definitely something that's on their radar. We'll see. Yalvin, he looks like a kid. It's funny, but he's big and he's got a lot of potential. But Anderson Nava is the other one that Baseball America has tagged as a potential breakout prospect, only 16 years old.
Well, not to age you because you've already kind of been there, but this is the first time I find myself able to say I could be the parent of one of these prospects.
Yeah, I've already been there. Thanks.
You look at these 16, 17-year-olds, I'm like, technically, I'd be a very young parent at that, but I technically could be the mom of some of these kids.
I technically could be a grandparent of this 16-year-old kid.
You're not that old, Jamie.
No, but if that kid was, making mistakes at a young age.
This is true. I mean, anything's possible. Anything's possible. But yeah, Cleveland John, absolutely hammered. Welcome. Cleveland John saying just call him Javelin and he's throwing dudes out at the plate. I like that. I like that nickname.
Shout out to Absolutely Hammered in the chat.
Yes. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I agree. Robert Stevenson or we riot. And you guys missed it on Friday as you were both out, but Jordan Hicks signed with San Fran on Friday live during the show. They gave him the opportunity to be a starting pitcher, which we'll watch from afar how that goes. But the Phillies miss out on, what seems to be kind of the consensus want list here, which is Stevenson, Hicks, Hector Neris, which we'll get to in a second, and maybe Tyler's boy, Phil Maton. It's a dwindling list. Passan said between the 12th and the 19th, there was going to be a lot of activity here. So we'll see if the Phillies get their guy this week.
Yeah, there has been some activity going on. Spiral out, of course, we are hoping one will turn into a superstar for the Phillies, but elsewhere around the league, we've been seeing some things going on. You talk about Hector Neris. Let's jump into some other Major League Baseball news that we can run through. So the market has been very active for Hector. The Yankees and Rangers are emerging as front runners, according to sources. Mark Feisan was coming out talking about that as well. So it seems like Hector Neris is kneeling a deal, possibly.
Yeah, Yankees and Rangers, everybody needs, all good playoff teams are going to invest in bullpen help. Our sweet boy Hector, we'll see. I wouldn't mind him back here at all. I thought he kind of got overhated on a little bit during his time with the Phillies.
I can feel that.
So, I wouldn't mind if he was coming back. But as Absolutely Hammer says, I think Robert Stevenson is most people's number one want here. We'll see what happens. Time to get cracking, Dave Dombrowski. We need another bullpen arm.
Well, a team that's still looking for a want, the Blue Jays, who have been Still shopping, still looking. Blake Snell actually has been one that the Blue Jays have been quietly monitoring, according to reports. Now, Blake Snell's ups and downs of different teams that we've been hearing have been varying, but according to Bob Nightingale, several clubs do remain interested, but the Blue Jays have continued to drop their name in that hat, as well as many other names in free agency so far. So I'm curious to see where Blake Snell is going to finally end up, and if we'll actually see a move for Blake Snell as soon as like this week.
Yeah,
I mean, it's been
Imanagas. Did you catch his press conference last week?
Oh, it was so cute.
That was awesome. Hey,
I
Chicago.
Like him.
It was
I
awesome.
was like, all right.
I mean, the balls it takes to go up there and not your native language and do that. That's respect, sir.
Definitely.
But he doesn't, he gets signed before Snell. The Snell period is like, what's going on? Like,
it's
I know,
weird.
he puts guys on base and he's had 2 spectacular years and a bunch of like pretty okay years. But like the fact he's not signed yet is pretty interesting with the desperation out there. You wonder if San Francisco Giants, I know they, have made a couple signings. You wonder if they go and just get them.
Yeah.
Do the Cubs double down? Do the Yankees, they get Marcus Stroman at the end of last week? Do they just say, screw it, we got to beat the Dodgers, let's go get Snell? Like, I don't know where he's going to go. I have no read on this guy. Most of the reporters keep seeming to say, California is where he wants to be. Some speculated Seattle might because of the desperation, and they can't really attract that many non-West Coast people there because it's so far away. So I have no idea on Snell. It should be an interesting one wherever he lands, though.
I know the Giants, of course, are one of the teams, as you mentioned, that were actively interested in Snell, and now that they've landed Jordan Hicks, allegedly, they might be moving in a different direction, possibly for like a Matt Chapman type of a guy. But Blake Snell's weird because I think financially and just in terms of the deal, maybe that's why, people like Emenaga and Hicks have fallen off the board before him.
We just need this market to completely collapse and it becomes a 1-year overpaid deal. And then Dave Dombrowski opens up the wallet and bring him on in.
Ding, ding, ding. And then another name that actually is kind of newer to the market that we haven't talked a lot about, JD Martinez. There are 6 teams reportedly interested in JD Martinez. Bob Nightingale reported that as well, saying that the 5-time All-Star has a number of teams, Mets, Tigers, Blue Jays again, that are interested in Martinez. The Angels, another one as well, since they have some holes to fill.
Yeah, they have a pretty big hole to
say the least.
Try and replace.
So that's another one. There's some new names coming on the market. I think it is just interesting that we're still seeing Snell with new names that are coming out as guys that are being shopped around.
Well, like, Zalecki and a lot of the Gelb, a lot of other guys have said, well, they're out on Montgomery and Snell. They're out on but every insider is, not prefacing, what's the post, making a footnote of, unless the market basically changes or collapses in their favor. So all we can really do as greedy Phillies fans that we are is really hope this market does collapse to the point where Blake Snell maybe is a 1-year, $32 million deal, and Dave Dombrowski goes, yeah, screw it. There's no bad 1-year deals in baseball.
That would be great.
Fingers crossed that this market continues to be weird and confusing for Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery, and we can, hop right into it. But
well, last 2 things on the international prospect signing side, as we're talking about other teams' moves that they've made. The Padres added the top prospect to their system. That was #1 international prospect.
That's the question I asked Ryan Bloomfeld about.
Yes.
He nailed it. Hey, Ryan, you
Dallas.
nailed it, man. You said the Padres. They got him.
DeVries. And then also, I know we had this mention on our show sheet because there's another Vladimir Guerrero back in the league, half-brother of Blue Jays All-Star Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and, of course, son of Hall of Famer Vladimir Guerrero Sr. He agreed to a $117,000 signing bonus to join the Mets. But back in the league is another Vladdy.
Yeah, Vlad's one of my all-time favorite non-Philly baseball players. I loved watching Vladimir Guerrero throw, bat, no batting gloves, just could hit for average power. He was deceivingly fast. He had a cannon of an arm. So hopefully that doesn't transfer to Vladimir Miguel Guerrero because I don't want to see the Mets get a Vladdy Jr. type. So while I pull for his bloodline, I don't want to see it come to fruition in shitty fields. So I would prefer very much so that he not work out because, I'm a total sucker for the bloodline draft. Like when Casey Matthews was picked by the Eagles, I was like, all right, I know he's not Clay, but he's got his uncle's a Hall of Famer. Clay is like
you just hope some of that sprinkles down.
Yeah, I'm a big bloodline like sucker. So I'm already convinced in my head that he's going to become a player. And that's unfortunate. But if you do want the best of New York and, not have to go travel to Rat City, well, a friend of the company here, Bagels & Company, wants you to know that they are bringing you New York's finest made right here in Philadelphia. They have huge bagels, the biggest bagels in Philly. They're very large, hence the Brooklyn-style bagel, and they have a large variety of them, which is my favorite part of a bagel place. When you go into a place and they only have like 4 or 5 bagels, it's like, come on, where's the imagination, guys? Well, Bagels & Co. usually has 15 to 20 different types of bagels to choose from daily. And they do seasonal bagels. They might have a Kelly Green Eagles type of bagel out today for the playoff game. Maybe they have a Dallas choked or Dallas sucks type of bagel. I don't know what that would look like, but we all know that Dallas sucks. And they have a huge cream cheese variety, 30 different flavors of cream cheeses and schmears. Who doesn't love a schmear? They have Phillies promotional stuff. When Clearwater picks up, they'll probably have some Phillies bagels. Maybe they got a Sixers one right now. And they're an affordable brand. They're very passionate about this. You get a lot of food for cheap. And in today's economy, this is key. They've debated raising their prices, but they want to be an everyday brand that's not some high-end place where you just splurge on the weekends. They want to be your everyday bagel shop. They have a mom-and-pop feel, but they cater to the everyday individual. And a lot of their customers are repeat customers, plus really good coffee, and it's not $7 like some other places, which I may be guilty of. For the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philly, head to thebagelsandco.com/store-locator to find the closest Bagels & Co. near you.
And while you're at it, why don't you take advantage of the opportunity to have meal kits that are delivered right to your door, fresh and easy and delicious to eat. And that's over at Factor Meal Kits. Now, Factor Meal Kits does a great job of providing you with a lot of options. You can skip the grocery store. You can have less prep time needed, and you don't have to worry about that cooking fatigue. What's for dinner? What's for lunch? Well, Factor Meal Kits help make those questions a lot easier to answer. And over at Factor Meal Kits, you can get started right away. They give you a lot of different types of meals and options, and they also give you snack options as well. They give you breakfast, smoothies, juices, snacks, lunch, dinner, providing for all day to make sure that it's nice and easy for you to skip the overpriced struggle of shopping and having to worry about where your next snack or meal is coming from. So what I like about Factor Meal Kits is that all of their food is also fresh. To me, that's very important. As you're planning your meals, you can plan 4 to 18 meals per week with Factor Meal Kit. You can pause, you can reschedule, you have options, you've got flexibility. Flexibility, food, Factor Meal Kits. And you can now head to factormealkits.com/Phillies50 and use code Phillies50 to get 50% off. Again, that is factormeals.com/Phillies50 to be able to get 50% off when you use the code Phillies50. So take advantage of what they have: flavorful, nutritious food to eat, every meal, snack, quick bites of energy, cold pressed juices, smoothies. Sounds delicious. Well, go check them out right now over at factormeals.com/Phillies50.
Real quick, I want to address 2 comments in the chat. One, did Jamie make his own coffee today?
I was actually waiting for someone. Cleveland John, thank you. I was waiting because...
Thank you for holding me accountable. I did have at-home coffee today.
That's right. It is 3 o'clock, so you're past coffee.
It's a long day for me, so I did the 1:30, 2 o'clock coffee as well. I splurged on that one.
And you went back to Starbucks?
It's an unusual purchase for... Yeah. I got my double espresso coffee. So I did 50-50. But it's a long game day. I'm going to be doing the Eagles pre and post game.
Why didn't you just make
I could have, but I wanted the disposable cup because I didn't want to carry around like the coffee mug.
Oh, that's easy. You can buy some disposable cups to have at home.
I splurged today. It's not a normal day. For
the price you paid for that Starbucks, you could literally go get disposable cups, and you could make your own, and you can still throw the cup away.
All right, I'm just being honest with the chat here. I don't need a lecture from all of you. And then the second
Don't
one.
worry, guys. I'm lecturing on all of our behalves.
The second one, Martian Lynch, the artichoked bagels for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, there's the funny Lynch in the conversation.
Yeah, there's got to be one of us out there somewhere. Artichoked bagels.
Honestly,
got them.
I don't want to go off the rails too much today because we're tight on time. But the Cowboys embarrassed themselves so much that I feel like I don't even need to make fun of them. They did enough on their own that there's like.
This is sad to say, but if the Eagles lose tonight, it's a little bit lessened by the Cowboys.
1,000%. I tweeted that out.
And that's lame.
I have no problem admitting,
I'll admit
regardless of what happens today, not regardless, because there's definitely a line. Almost regardless of what happens today, I will feel fine knowing that the Cowboys at home lost again in the playoffs.
That was awesome.
And got destroyed and blown out by the Green Bay Packers. I love it. I love that.
And right from the start, too, there was no like doubt about it. It was just like Packers went right down the field, scored, pick six, game over.
Cowboys being Cowboys, and now they're 4-11 in playoff games going back to 1999. So
wow. Did you see that the Packers have more playoff victories at AT&T Stadium than the Cowboys do? That one really warms my soul.
That's all the things that I enjoy and love. Oh, my gosh.
Having enemies in sports is great.
It's so great because it just makes it easier. Let's say the Eagles do go lose today.
It definitely makes it easier.
Which is possible because they haven't been playing well.
Oh, anything's possible with this Eagles team.
Literally anything's possible. John tweeted something out, our writer, John Foley, and he was like, it could be a 3-0 game. It could be 9-3. The Eagles can blow Tampa Bay out. Tampa Bay can blow out the Eagles. Anything could happen.
So I've been like trying to think about like, because Bo always asks me at the end of the pregame show, like, how you feeling? I've been trying to think of my answer today, and this is the weirdest playoff day.
I feel so weird.
It's so weird. I have no idea what this team is going to give you.
It kind of feels like a lunar eclipse is about to happen or something random. Like, I just feel like this day's not a real day. So let's also take time to go down on the farm because we've been every day doing a daily deep dive into Phillies prospects, talking about who they are, giving you a little insight of some of their numbers, some of their projections. And this is something you don't have to feel weird about because, actually, maybe you do. I don't know. Because this one's pretty interesting. So our player for today that we're taking a look at, we've got Michael Mercado, 24-year-old.
Number 20 on the list.
Yes. And for Mercado, we saw the Phillies pick him up last year in November in a trade with Tampa Bay. A right-handed pitcher at 24 years old. He stands at 6'4", 205. His split time between AA, AAA in 2023. We've kind of seen him bounce around. 52 appearances. He's pitched for 62 innings. 4-3 record in that time. A 4.79 ERA and a 13.79 strikeout to innings ratio. 1.34 WHIP. And he was acquired, as I mentioned, by the Phillies in a trade back in November with the Rays. And the interesting thing about Mercado, drafted in the second round of 2017 by Tampa.
High second.
Then he tore his ulnar collateral ligament late 2018.
Tommy John.
Underwent Tommy John surgery 2019. Then the pandemic hit in 2020. We all know what happened in 2020 around the world around COVID-19. So he didn't pitch until 2021 professionally. So drafted in 2017 by Tampa, and it wasn't until 2021 that he threw his first pitch professionally. So because of that, I feel like he's a very interesting prospect and someone that, although we have some numbers on, when you look at some of the projections and the reports on him, it shows he's shown that he's very inconsistent. He throws pitches at a below average change for strikes. His velocity does come and go. He's got a chance to be a starter. It's a lot of like potential. It's a lot of, just throw it out there, see what sticks type of reports, I feel like, for Mercado because of the fact he's had a crazy stretch of years before he even got to pitch professionally. Yeah,
these high school kids, it's always tough. And like you said, he missed the 2 years there because of Tommy John and the COVID season. So he's still oddly a kid that's, been in these systems for 5 or 6 years, but you can say like hasn't really had those 5 or 6 years. So there's still upside. There's still intrigue with his stuff. High school kid, as you said, 6'4". He's lanky. He projects to be fully grown. I guess he could still to me, it feels like he could still grow, but he could get another inch or two,
24?
according to one scout's report. His top flight combinations, scouts say, of size, stuff, and feel have catapulted him. And this was coming out he was almost a first-round selection, in other words, as a high school arm out of Southern California,
Wild.
San Diego area. He committed to Stanford. He was a costly signing at $2.1 million. Lost those 2 years. The Phillies got him in that trade, as you mentioned, when they gave up Adam Leverett as well as cash considerations. They've selected him for the roster, leaving the team with 2 open spots for the 40-man bullpen last year. Struck out an excellent 35.5% of batters, but walked 13% and struggled with the home run ball in between AA and AAA last year. So we'll see. His stuff on the scout scale of the 20 to 80 scale mostly hovers around that 55 to 60 range. He's probably projected to be a bullpen arm, I would think, just because we'll find he hasn't really gotten stretched out a ton. He only did the 22 and a third innings last year. We'll see. Unknown, but there's definitely a reason why Dombrowski and them, targeted this kid, maybe because of those 2 missed years and like the potential is there. So we'll see. Fangraphs has him as high as 16 on the prospect list. Some others who will not be named because apparently we can't do that have him much lower. So, we'll see. He's definitely one that's probably a one to keep an eye on in spring training if he can help the club this year.
Yeah, Michael, we will see Mercado because he was, as you mentioned, a top player coming out of high school. He's a top 50 in his class. He was climbing the ladder, and then, of course, injuries really slowed things down. And, Tyler, I know you've got some numbers that you want to share on Michael as well.
Yeah, so excuse me, the thing that probably, and Jamie, you talked about the home run rate, in AA and AAA last year, 48.7% in AA, 50.5% in AAA. That's his fly ball rate. He's an extreme fly ball pitcher. Ground ball rate at 28 in AA, 28.2 in AA, 28 flat in AAA. For you guys, is there any concern considering the fact that he does struggle with the long ball and he is such an extreme fly ball pitcher? In a hitter-friendly ballpark like CBP, there's some concern there.
Sure.
For me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I guess they're thinking and getting him is he had first-round stuff out of high school. He's lost those 2 years. Maybe we can work with him and pull some of that magic. Much like Jose or Hoffman, they've had a pretty good track record of these borderline major, minor. Tyler, you kind of called him a quad A guy.
He seems to be a quad A pitcher to me.
Yeah.
I mean, and to be fair, like the one guy that I was comparing him to, and I don't mean in stuff, but I mean like in what leverage kind of usage the Phillies would use him in last year was Dylan Covey. And Dylan Covey's numbers in LA were putrid, and we know that. And I think a lot of people
here.
Right, and a lot of people look at his numbers the first 2 years, his first 2 professional years in 19 and 20, and he wasn't very good. And then he, started the year with the Dodgers last year. I think he got DFA'd, but I'll go back and double check. Comes to Philly, and people go, "This guy sucks." And the reality of the situation was he posted a 3.7 last year, and I mean the whip was high, and maybe he danced out of some danger a little bit. But for the type of guy that he is, I feel like the Covey Mercado comparison in terms of like their usage heading into 24 would be similar should one make the team over the other.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to watch this kid. We'll see. I mean, there's a reason they traded for him. I think they were all going to cut Leverett because his eligibility was up. I think this is his last year. We'll see if they can turn him into something because they have had that pretty good track record of converting those quad A guys into useful pieces. And you know what else has useful pieces for you? Well, that's FOCO. They have so many useful pieces. If you look behind us on the shelf there, they've provided a lot of the nice materials we have here in our offices. And FOCO is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment in merchandising with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. The overalls that swept the nation, FOCO was behind it. The Eagles' ugly Christmas sweater, and I say ugly in parentheses, it came from FOCO. They've got all the best stuff, the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandom, and it's football and tailgating season. And if you're up in Buffalo right now and about to go to a playoff game and lots of snow, well, you might need hoodies and hats and beanies and all sorts of hand warmers. Like, who knows? FOCO's probably got you covered for everything you need for the game, especially if you're out in the cold. gold. And Foco has hooked us up here at PHLY with some great pieces for our set. And Foco always has your back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description for all non-presale items. Use the promo code PHLY10 for 10% off your order.
All right. So I know in the chat, there's some chatter, of course, about the Cowboys, but also about some things around, I know DJ 1698, you're saying the Phillies cannot go back this season with basically the same roster they had the past 3 years. We still need to make a move. Absolutely hammered. You're talking about Lachlan Wells. I know we highlighted Lachlan after that news broke.
The Adelaide,
the Phillies.
What was his team? The Adelaide. Was it good?
Oh, no, I can't remember now either.
Yeah.
Out of Australia, and his numbers, that 6.3 ERA and 60 strikeouts and 43 innings pitched. Very, very intriguing. And so let's
Adelaide
talk more.
Giants.
That's what it was.
I love the Adelaide Giants.
Let's talk more about the Phillies and some things that we've heard. And with that, we'll welcome on our guest for today. Joining us, a dear friend of ours. We've got Nick Piccone, digital content producer for Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler, content creator for Philly Sports. Does a lot on Twitter and a lot of different types of coverage of all things Philly sports. Nick, how are you feeling on this Monday? It's Eagles game day. Sixers are playing. It's Dr. King's day. How are you feeling today about everything sports?
I'm feeling great about the Eagles game. And I'm not saying they're going to play good, but that Cowboys loss lit something under me where I'm excited to see. Hopefully it lit something under the Eagles because you hope that they come out. I don't believe in the whole playing possum thing at the end of the season. I just don't believe in that whole thing. But listen, the playoffs are a whole different animal. So you just hope. And the Bucs are about as good as a team they could play, I guess, at this point. So, I'm more hyped up now. It's game day. Definitely more hyped up than I was, 2 days ago.
Yeah, that's for sure. And follow Nick on Twitter if you don't already. It's @_Picone, Picone. Nick, you've become like the go-to Twitter account for in-market, out-of-market radio calls and videos. You do a great job kind of lassoing a lot of the pain and suffering of sports fans around the country and delivering it right there on our timeline for Philly sports fans. So I guess let me just say thank you because I enjoy it.
Yeah, and I didn't think it would get as much play, I guess. But it's Twitter, and I probably should have realized that. But it also entertains me at the same time. Whether the other announcers are good and they're like trashing their own team, or whining and complaining about the Eagles or Phillies or any other team, it's always entertaining to me. So,
fan base have you irked the most, Nick, with like your repurposing of their radio calls? Who really came at you? Was it Niners fans last year?
Mostly, and that was a lot of off-season chatter. How the players did it, but their fans did it too. And I would get stuff in like Mars, be like, "Yeah, just wait till next year." And they would talk about even when the Eagles went on their little slide or whatever, they're like, "Oh, why don't you post the Eagles call about the 49ers trashing them?" And I'd be like, "Okay, here it is." And then I would just post the calls from last year's NFC Championship game, the 49ers radio. So I have fun with it. I know. Some people get upset. Some other people have a good time with it as well. But it's all about entertainment for me and just kind of laughing at my team and their team.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes we have to laugh to keep from crying. We've got nothing to do but find ways to have fun with it and be entertained by it. So, Nick, awesome job with everything that you're doing. Let's talk Phillies, specifically starting with Zack Wheeler. Now, we've bounced around. When is the Zack Wheeler extension going to happen? In general, when are the Phillies going to do something major? Since Aaron Nola, it's been several days, 54 days since the Aaron Nola signing. But now when we look at Zack Wheeler, possibly we might not see anything happen until later in the spring. What are your thoughts on when you predict that we're going to possibly get some news around Zack Wheeler, if it's going to happen? Because there are other teams like the Mets that are already eyeing, if Zack Wheeler becomes a free agent next year, wanting to try to find a way to reel in, I should say, Zack Wheeler.
Yeah, I think a lot of moves happen right after the season ends and maybe right before it begins. So this is the little lull that, Ohtani was the big, free agent this offseason that people were, focusing on. But I think, the the Nola signing came a little earlier than we anticipated, which is great. Like people give me crap about my post on Aaron Nola, but the Phillies are a better team with him as a starting pitcher. So I was glad that they were able to re-sign him. And the chatter surrounding Wheeler wanting to be extended and the Phillies wanting to extend him, I think is great. I do think they will eventually extend him. I do think it will happen, maybe closer to spring training, maybe during spring training. I don't know if it would happen after the regular season begins, but those seem to be, when everybody's together, right? Maybe everyone's on vacation or in the winter months or whatever. They were able to get Nola re-signed, and I think one step at a time type of thing, and they're really kind of looking at these smaller moves, which it's probably the smart thing, but at the same time, as a Phillies fan, you're just kind of like, come on, Dave, come on, Dave, come on, like we want to be excited about something in January. We're still a month away from spring training, or a little more than a month. So I think once spring training starts, we'll probably hear that amp up a little bit. I could be wrong. It could happen today, could happen tomorrow, but I do think Wheeler gets re-signed before this season starts.
Yeah, Matt Gell pointed this out in his piece yesterday. He said by waiting to go into spring training, a potential new contract extension would not have the luxury tax ramifications on 2024. So that would make a lot of sense why they're waiting. They tried to do the same thing with Nola this past year. Didn't get it done in spring training, but he's still a Philly, as you said. Nick, the team came out with their end of the year yearbook. I'm not ready to watch it yet, but it did have me thinking, like, what was your favorite memory from this past year that ultimately they came up short on, but it was still a lot of damn fun?
I think everything in the playoffs they did well before Game 3 of the Arizona series. But the regular season, for me, there was no better moment in that season and on Twitter/X than Michael Lorenzen's no-hitter. That might have been my favorite night. And it was so cool because it was like a random August night. No one expected anything. And this is the beautiful thing about baseball, man. You never know what can happen in 162 games. And that just became such a fun night on Phillies Twitter that, I still remember now. It gives me goosebumps now. Just everybody sharing, people at the game posting videos and stuff. And it's just like, man, like could this be the year? And, Lorenzen kind of fell off after that, but it doesn't, to me personally, doesn't take away that moment that we had. I think it was a random Wednesday night in August. And, we were still kind of on the brink of wondering whether they would make the playoffs or not, but they pulled away and they did it. Everything in the playoffs just meant more. That was so exciting, but I will never forget that night Michael Lorenzen threw a no-hitter. That was one of my favorite times of that season.
Yeah, honest, and it reminds me a lot of, as we've recapped a lot of the top moments. Trey Turner's another one. Obviously, that night in August was just fantastic to see the change for Trey and for the team. And I know Major League Baseball just recently came out with a list of the top 10 players that they think should run more next year. Of course, Trey Turner, 30 for 30 in stolen bases last year. The league is saying that they expect Trey to steal more bases this year. I know we've talked about on the show of hoping that we're going to get a full year of Trey Turner, not just the second half of the season, of being, a top guy for the Phillies. What are your expectations for Trey Turner going into 2024? We've been manifesting a lot of positivity and hoping that it sticks this upcoming season. What do you think is going to be the season that we get from Trey Turner? Is it an up year for him, building off of the end of last year?
Yeah, you hope so, especially considering I think they're going to keep him at short. I would love to see Stott at short and Turner at second, but, that's above my pay grade. I do love the fact that we can, as Phillies fans, we actually have a tangible comparison to Nick Castellanos from his first year into his second year. Yeah, we're not going to worry about what happened in the playoffs for this specific point that I'm going to make, but he definitely looked a lot more relaxed in his second year. And you think that would hopefully be the same for Trey. This team, seemingly like the Flyers right now, they love playing for each other. They love their manager. They love each other. They could probably go a long way. Now with Trey, you hope that he just is solid the whole season. There's going to be slumps. We know there's going to be slumps. Bryce Harper's going to have a slump at some point this season, but you just hope that he's solid enough. And, if we need a clutch hit, that he could be the guy to come up and get the clutch hit. That's all that to get wins, like that's all we need. And it just wasn't happening for the longest time last season, which standing ovation was great. That was another great moment too last season. It was organic, and it's fun to point at ourselves, be like, yeah, we did that, but no, Trey did that, and I think it got him back on the right side of the mentality of playing baseball in Philly, and his second year should only be better.
So Nick, I'm going to outsource one of our daily segments to you here, and don't worry, it's very easy. I'm going to give Nick the moment of positivity. So we've been doing the 24 reasons why the Phillies will be better this year than they were last year. There obviously hasn't been a lot of roster turnover or change, but I want to give you the opportunity to say why the Phillies will be better this year. We'll see if you've hit on one. I think we've done 9 or 10 so far. We'll see if you hit on one. But what's your reason why the Phillies will be better this year than they were last year?
It's a tough question.
It is. I know it wasn't the whole season. This might be a cop-out. And he had like a great numbers that could be like a full season. But a full season of Bryce Harper might be the difference between an NL East championship and a wild card, and maybe a bye in the first round. God forbid, they're off for a week before they go into their playoff series. But I think a full season of Bryce Harper, 100, maybe not 162 games, but April through September and early October could be the difference between a division title and not.
Yeah, and I'm oddly really excited to see a full year of first base play out of Harper.
Yeah,
I think that's
that
going to be really fun.
The defense definitely will improve.
Definitely could not agree with you more on that, Nick. I know in the chat we actually have a question coming out of Top KMs about Andrew Painter. Now, Andrew Painter has been one of the prospects that as Major League Baseball has been putting out all their rankings for every position, for every player, for prospects, for just a lot of different rankings coming out. Andrew Painter has been included on a number of those lists. He was an honorable mention for best fastball. He was up there for top prospects that are, pitching prospects. So Andrew Painter, who of course we know is not pitching this year, but what are your expectations for Andrew Painter in the future when he does get back, hopefully 2025?
Yeah, I mean, you hope that he still has the stuff that made him get to this level. You hope that, and pitchers that have Tommy John surgery nowadays, you see they come back and they're, I don't want to say better than ever, but they are improved. Sometimes there aren't pitchers that can come back from that stuff. But for the most part nowadays in 2024, if you get Tommy John surgery, you're more likely to bounce back and be just at the point you were before you got hurt, or maybe a little better. So I do hope that, and listen, where, okay, prospects are great, but if you could trade a chip for somebody else that is already proven at the major league level, you do it. So, I don't think they're going to do that with Painter, because I don't think a team's going to want to trade for him until they see him in the major leagues. But you still have that chip if he can come back, be what he was to get him to that level. Well, he was supposed to be the 5th starter last year, right? That was what they were pegging him as. So his ceiling is definitely higher than a 5th starter for sure. And you just got to hope that in 2025 he bounces back and he can almost like an off-season signing type thing, a big off-season signing where, maybe his ceiling that year could be number 3 starter. We don't know, what's going to happen with Ranger at the time, Taiwan, and what's our 5th starter now, Sanchez at this point. So, we'll see.
And one of those other prospects, Mick Abel, could be, have a shot at being the team's 6th starter this year. So we'll see if he pans out or not. Nick, last one for me. It appears the more and more this is, unraveling here. I think the plan is to get a bullpen arm in free agency and possibly, target that outfielder at the trade deadline if Rojas doesn't work out. How do you feel about Rojas offensively this year? Are you drinking the Kool-Aid when it comes to swole Johan pictures going around and working out with De La Cruz? Do you think the offense will get to the point where it needs to be?
I hope so. He did show glimpses last year, but playing against major league pitching each day is tough, especially for a guy that just came up in the middle of the year, and he came up for his defense. So it was maybe unfair for some of us, and I was included in that, of wanting more out of him at the plate. But at the same time, major league level it's playoffs. We need you, and when you fail, we're upset about it. So I don't mind, if they keep him up for the whole season or whatever. My personal preference was to re-sign Rhys Hoskins for 1 year, put him at first, put Harper back and right, and just move Nick to left. That way you can have Marsh and Rojas platoon in center. But again, that's probably not fair to Rojas because he needs as many reps as he can get. So then I was like, okay, maybe you move him down in the minors, or you start him at the minors, and that way he plays every day. But that was my first, want as a Phillies fan. But yeah, it doesn't seem like they're going to put Harper in right, and that kind of foils every type of, with Rhys coming back too. Like that's just probably not happening. So the best thing I think at this point, you have to get that corner outfielder at some point. But Schwarber in left, if you put Marsh in center, and maybe send Rojas to the minors, they did. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was last year because it seemingly couldn't get worse, right? But I could see that happening. But my gut tells me, Marsh in left, Rojas in center is how they're probably going to start the year.
Yeah, based on Dave's recent comments that we've heard from Todd Zalecki, does seem like they're really leaning into banking on Johan Rojas. If you hear him get called Yoro, by the way, just keep helping me spread that nickname. I think Yoro is a great nickname for Johan Rojas. Like Yoro, especially since he's a little more, swole these days. Yeah. I'm thinking Yoro is a great nickname, so just keep passing that along.
She's trying, Nick. She's trying.
But Nick, we appreciate you for taking time to join us here on PHLY Phillies podcast. We love the work that you're doing on the Twitter. We're not going to call it the X.
It's not X. It's Twitter.
It's on Twitter. So keep up all the great content you're doing, and thanks again for taking time to weigh in on some Phillies thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me on, and go Birds.
Go Birds indeed.
Yes.
Thank you, Nick.
Of course, guys, give Nick a follow. Agreed with a lot of his points. Interesting thought, similar to what Mopar saying in the chat of wanting to sign Rhys. I know there's a lot of people on the sign Rhys Hoskins bandwagon. I don't either. Definitely don't want to see Kyle in left field. Would love to see the news happen for him getting signed, though. But yeah, some great comments and questions in the chat. Poppy Nuts about wanting Yoro to learn how to bunt for the playoffs.
That'd be nice.
KMs,
but apparently bunting isn't taught anymore. It's just not important.
I don't know.
It's not modern baseball.
Cleveland John's down with Sworo. I like that, actually. I could take the spin off of Yoro to Sworo. But yes, and absolutely hammered. Dave definitely moves in silence like cheese and lasagna.
Yeah, Scott Kingery did damage to me about swole pictures. So I'm not going to buy the Sworo hype yet.
I know.
But, obviously we're all optimistic and hopeful that he will just become a competent batter. That's all. You're not asking for the world because of his defense. If you can just be that 240, 245 guy that gets on base and causes the opposing pitcher's sphincters to tighten up because of your speed.
I think you just like saying the word sphincters.
It's a word. It's a medical word. I didn't go.
I'm aware.
It's scientific, Renee. I'm talking like a doctor here. But that speed on the base pass changes the way a pitcher approaches the game because he's that fast, and he's a big key to this season.
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, thanks to Nick for joining us to be able to share. You can check him out on Twitter at _Picone, as he's doing great work with Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. It's all his content that he creates for Philly sports and all his interviews and different segments and content. So he also gave his positivity. We've already gone down the trail of positivity today. I liked it. It's
It was
something we
number one
talked
off our
about. It
board.
was our top,
Yeah.
exactly what we led with. Bryce Harper. There were some others in the chat, actually, I wanted to hit on. If you could scroll up a little bit for me, Tyler. There were some other positive thoughts that were being manifested. Absolutely hammered. Aaron Nola going to be an all-star in 2024.
I think he's due for a big year.
Spiral Out is saying that the Phillies will not go. I'm gonna change it from can't to will not go 10-18 in May again. They're going to have a strong start because we're manifesting. So how you say these phrases, you have to speak it into existence. So I like some of these.
And that's what we talked about last week with and it wasn't May, it was April, but the April schedule is extremely favorable to this team.
I like it. I'm all for it. And then Hypothetical Man's talking about Yoro's approach at the plate being terrible in the playoffs, but
he was an automatic
Agreed.
out, and you just can't have that. We're not asking for you to be a 315, 320 hitter. You just can't be an automatic out because that just kills you.
Exactly. Well, the last thing I want to hit on for the Phillies, and we'll talk more tomorrow. We've got all week to break down some of the rankings that have come out from Major League Baseball and some other updates. Specifically from Matt Gelb's piece is the fact that Dave Dombrowski has had to trade for the back of rotation starters in the last 3 years. And the quote that came out of that I know you liked, Jamie, of saying it's uncomfortable to wait until February for reinforcements, but the Phillies might deem that their best path. We've seen that in the past. Gibson, Lorenzen, Syndergaard, different players that we've seen in the past where the Phillies really have waited. And that's kind of the Philly way. I've talked about the same thing on the PHLY Union show because the Union do the same thing. It's kind of like a Philly sports way of just kind of waiting and not being so quick to make moves in the offseason and waiting until February to make reinforcements.
Yeah, I mean, you can say this about every rotation in baseball, but they're one injury away from kind of unraveling a little bit. And they're better than most in that Ranger and Christopher Sanchez have really proven themselves to be potentially, the two that tie that five together. Now you look to that sixth starter, and I think Gelb talked about this a little bit in the piece. Nick Nelson / Mick Abel.
Yeah.
This is a big year for Mick Abel because if somebody goes down, he might finally get his shot. Because I think he's going to be 24 in season this year. He might actually get called up, and we'll see. But thank God for Christopher Sanchez. And it would be nice to go to another trade deadline not needing a back end rotation guy because Kyle Gibson, Noah Syndergaard, Michael Lorenzen, kind of 0 for 3 there. So, I mean, you're 0 for 3. I was going to say, Kyle Gibson was okay, no, he stunk.
Yeah.
He wasn't Syndergaard bad, but it'd be nice to just have one pressing need at the All-Star or at the trade deadline and go get it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm all for making decisions a little bit earlier to give time to get guys settled in. It is tough. In general, the later that those moves happen, I feel like you're not getting spring training. You're not getting, even just the early parts of the season to gel with your new team. So I'm all for a move earlier than later. I know some more positively coming in the chat before we get into Guess That Stands. Top KMs is saying that Ranger will win 18 games as a third starter. I like that manifestation. Yoderlin, Solaris are saying the defense will win games, but we need more production in the bottom of the order. Could not agree more. And if we can get pitchers that can hold the lead, we will all be happy with that.
The defense should be a lot better this year. 1, no Schwarber. 2, I don't believe Turner's going to be nearly as bad.
Bryce.
Bohm has taken strides I didn't think he was capable of, so hopefully he keeps
and always at third.
Yeah, and as you said, Bryce is a better first baseman already than Reese. And your boy Johan will be manning center field. So your defense is going to be improved. And Nick Castellanos, keep in mind, the only right fielder last year to not commit an error. So, guy's unbelievable.
Yeah, and if Taijuan Walker coming in 15, then Ranger coming in 18. I believe that too. Absolutely hammered.
Can he stay healthy? I think is the key with Ranger. I don't think he's gone over 150 innings yet in his career, if I'm not mistaken.
Last few years.
I think it's been close. Don't quote me on that, but he's not an innings eater because he does always.
He's for 155 and 22.
155 is his high. Okay.
This will be his year then, guys.
All right. I
Ranger's
hope so.
going to stay healthy this year.
He's
going to win 18.
Yeah, I mean, I love. You know how I feel about Ranger.
Oh, I know. You love Ranger.
I do. He's adorable.
Adorable. All right. So for Guess That Stands, we've been every day.
5 for 5. You feeling the pressure? 5 for 5. Devon got it on Friday.
I don't think I can roll my eyes hard enough.
John got it on Friday, and so did Devon. So Devon was your proxy.
So I got a point.
He was. He was your proxy vote. So you
I
got
basically had a point.
Yeah, you got a point on Friday.
I don't like
thanks
that. It's
to
like a
Devon.
pity point.
Well,
I didn't earn
take
that
what you
point.
can get.
I was sick. I was somewhere dying, and Devon in my place got me a point. Okay, I guess. So so then you're 5 and I have I'll say 3.
I think 3, yeah.
I don't know. It's like okay. 3 is better than 2. All right.
Some of the heavy hitters are gone now. So now it's gonna get tough.
This is where it's really gonna get tough. It was already tough. Yover Washington 2024, and I'm gonna get a point today. All right, Tyler, what do we've got for guess that stance as we get ready to wrap up?
Positivity, Renee. Positivity. Oh, okay, I got it. I'm sending you, Tyler.
Wait, I feel like I kind of have it.
Do you?
I don't know.
I got it. I'll just text you, Tyler.
Oh, look at you coming into 2024.
Well, I didn't see his DM on Slack, so.
I will say, knowing who this is, right, and looking at the lower half body control,
yeah,
it's absolutely incredible to me.
Look at the muscles.
How like vicious of a swing it could generate, and the body control is there.
Yeah. I am submitted.
I don't know, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's just pure violence in that swing.
Yeah. But it's controlled violence.
It is, yeah. He's got a chance.
By the way, the way that you're talking about this guy, I don't need to look. You're almost assuredly correct.
Yes. He's got a chance. So I grew up like on the back end of Schmidt, and Schmidt was kind of like my gateway idol into baseball. And then, of course, Ryan Howard was my favorite of the Howard, Utley, and Rollins, with Jimmy probably being a close second. I don't want to give away too many clues. Renee, how much more time?
No!
Do you need? How you feel?
Yeah, we got
the more I talk, the more I'm going to reveal an answer.
You
so
got
I'm
4
shut
minutes
up.
left on this show, so.
And I got to pee, Renee. So let's get this answer out.
This is not a current player.
Okay.
And by the way, if you're just seeing this for the first time, we're only doing 2006 to present day Phillies. We're not going back to Von Hayes and Charlie Hayes and Dickie Thon and Kevin Stocker.
No, we saved that for trivia.
Yeah, Benito Santiago,
who
Philly
managed the
great.
1914 Phillies.
All right.
I don't know.
All right, we good?
I'm texting now, Tyler.
All right, you're both in. You're both right.
Ooh, yay!
Yeah.
It was the you know what actually helped me out? The follow through, but also the hair.
The lettuce that helps some people with work.
That really helped me out a lot. For sure.
Will says, shocker that I have to pee during the show. Yeah, I consume a lot of liquids.
Because you don't see, I go
hit the
pee
like
twice
button.
before the show.
I
You only
did.
go
I
once.
peed like 15 minutes before the
Dang.
show.
Yeah, well, they're on. I'm gonna start. Well, I'm not gonna start tracking, but Will is already tracking. Your bladder is ridiculous.
My bladder is weak, and tonight I'm gonna put some more in it. Watching the Eagles game over at Wicked Wolf in Center City. If anybody can come out, don't have plans for the game. Me and Bo Wolf will be there. I think some other people are coming by. It's all presented by Smooth Tea. Wicked Wolf is going to. Yeah, you and your smooth teas, Renee. That's what they always say about you. She's always packing that smooth tea on her. But we'll be at Wicked Wolf tonight watching the game, pre and post game. I don't know what that meant, Tyler. Don't think too much about it. Always packing that smooth tea. But we'll be doing pre and post game there.
Never heard that before.
At Wicked Wolf in Center City. So if you want, come on by. We'll be watching the game together. I'll be smooth teeing it up tonight.
Smooth teas are great.
Yeah.
They're smooth. It literally does taste like iced tea.
I love iced tea.
And it's a great drink to have when you're watching a game or like you want to drink slower.
Yeah.
Like if I'm
beer makes me filled up and uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't drink beer.
So
I don't like.
I'm gonna smooth tea it up tonight.
But I can't watch a game drinking. Like my beverage of choice is whiskey. I'm not gonna watch a game sipping on some whiskey because I'll be really absolutely hammered by the end of that game.
I was nervous Saturday night. My cousin was over and we were drinking red wine with dinner. And then he was like, "You want to drink some bourbon?" And I was like, the wine bourbon cross stream had me like real.
Tough.
He's like, "I do it. It's fine. We're only gonna have one or two." And I was like, "All right, I did it." And and all was well, but I was nervous.
It's also about the timing of when you switch from wine to the stronger stuff, but. That's a whole other conversation for another day. One of these days, guys, we are going to do a special edition show where we're going to drink and sample some Phillies-specific drinks. We found some themed Phillies drinks, and it's just an excuse to test them out. And I feel like we should be bartenders on the show and make them. Yeah,
I'll take
why
the train
not?
in that
Why
day.
not?
Let's do it.
So that being said, yes, we've got an exciting day. Hopefully, could be exciting, could be depressing, could be a lot of things. We don't know what's going to happen the next hours. But thank you guys so much for taking time to join us today on PHLY Phillies podcast. For everybody in the chat, Mickey, your darling, absolutely hammered, Cleveland will spiral out. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Nick Piccone, our guest today. Again, give him a follow. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out of here. Tyler, Jamie, myself want to say have a great rest of your Monday. Let's hope that it's a victory Monday for the Eagles. But we'll see you back here tomorrow at our usual scheduled time, 12 o'clock. That will be going live with another guest joining us. See you guys next time.
Go Birds! We all silly like the mayor.